Hey guys, this is AwesomeJohn22 coming at you for the first time in a while with a new video. Some complications came up and I wasn't able to make any for a while, but I'm back and I'm going to start making them again as often as possible. In fact, I'm really going to try to do a little extra to catch up and get people back interested if, you know, anyone has actually been paying attention to my channel enough to lose interest. Anyway, I promised a while ago, actually, now, that my next review would be of this guy here. And if you don't know, this is the Transformers Prime Beast Hunters Smokescreen. Now, what can I say about Smokescreen? He is a brilliant toy. And I mean brilliant in that there are some very, very smart things about this toy. But this toy, I feel, was really made for people who wanted this character in their collections. I do not feel that this toy was actually made for children. He does come with some Beast Hunters armor, like some of the new guys have gotten. You have this piece here, which is, I'm not going to put it all the way on there. It wraps around his torso. Ends up looking something like that, which is just silly. And he gets this thing here, which is a missile with a net on it for his gun, and it folds up and it makes a net that is exactly that big around. And again, I think it's very silly, and the missile itself is not silly. The net is silly, and it does come off, and you can put the missile into his gun without the net, but then it's just too long. However, I do like the tip of the missile because it does look like, I don't know, some kind of arrow maybe, or a harpoon. But yeah, those are his Beast Hunters bits. I'm not impressed with them in the slightest. What does impress me, though, is this figure itself. I'm going to zoom in and let you get a look at the robot mode. There is a reason why I started this review in robot mode. You can see his face sculpt is perfect. It looks like Smokescreen. If you've seen Prime Smokescreen, you will recognize it immediately. The chest, while a little more shallow than you might expect, considering that the character's entire car front ends up on his chest in the show, it still looks good. His gun right there is very dinky, but still pretty cool looking. He does have the door wings. His feet are molded to be pretty accurate. And overall, his molding is pretty accurate. But I do have some fundamental issues with this figure, and that's the reason why I started him in robot mode. Because most of my issues are with the robot mode, and then the one issue that isn't is with the transformation from robot mode into vehicle mode. A little bit of background. We got this guy after a lot of people, a lot of collectors, had really spent a lot of money and effort buying a repaint and slight retool of Knockout from the Takara line, made to look like Smokescreen. And I never thought it looked like Smokescreen. I thought it looked okay, but it didn't look like Smokescreen, mostly because it didn't have the door wings. The chest wasn't quite right. There were just some issues, and if you've seen Knockout and Smokescreen, you can see they're similar looking characters, but they do not look the same. That is the background of this toy. We didn't think we were going to get him. Then I guess Hasbro said, oh, well, we should do something for those collectors, and they created this guy, which is evident by the fact that these things are not attached to him like they are on other Autobots. They wanted us to have the option of displaying this guy as he appears on the show, which is where my first issue comes in. If you can't tell just by looking at him, Google his picture or something, and after you've watched this, but his color scheme is not like it appears on the show. It's close in spots, but this doesn't look quite right. First, like, the most obvious to me, and I'll just show you this. See all that blue on his face? Most of that, if not all of that, I can't remember right off the top of my head, but especially everything rimming his jaw and whatever, is all supposed to be red. it would have hurt nothing to paint that red. Whoop. He just tilted or something. I don't know. I don't understand why it couldn't have been painted red. I don't. There's red paint in other parts of the figure. I don't know why they couldn't just use that red paint there instead of painting it blue. It's not like it gets in the way of transformation or whatever. You have to line stuff up for transformation, so they had to make it a different color. The head is a separate piece that has nothing to do with any part of the transformation other than its own. It could have been red. It should have been red. Bugs the crap out of me. Next issue, as I pointed out, he has a very small weapon. I don't like it. And there is no sign of his signature weapon from the show, which is his phase shifter. My third issue is that his profile is very thin, because his chest is a false chest. And my fourth and final issue, I think this is the fourth, might be the fifth. My final issue is with his extra kibble. He has some extra kibble. You can see right there on the legs. It just comes out further than you would expect. And this is where his real car friend is. Yeah. And despite all of those issues that I just pointed out to you guys, I still say this guy's buy. I say if you see him, you like the Prime series at all, buy this guy, because this is the best version of this character we're ever going to get. And it is not a bad version of the character. He has decent articulation. Head. The head is on a ball joint, though its up and down movement is limited. He has light piping. He has good shoulder rotation, though his shoulders do like to pop down every once in a while. His elbows are on a nice ratchet. He does rotate above the elbow. He has rotation at the waist. Zoom out just a little bit for this part. Rotation at the waist for transformation, but it's still there. Hips are great. Knees are great. And he even does have some rotation at the foot, also due to transformation. But still, it's there. So good articulation. He looks real good just to look at. I mean, he looks like Smokescreen, which is more than can be said for the Knockout repaint. But yeah, he's a good toy. Don't get me wrong. Don't think I'm trying to tell you he's not, because he's a great toy, and I like him a lot. In fact, like I said, I have one more issue with him, and we're going to get to that right now in the transformation. I hate the transformation of this guy. I'm just going to point it out right now. We're going to start out by taking the fronts of his legs, and I want to point out he has some interesting leg transformation, kind of like, it kind of reminds me of Wheeljack from Prime. It's not similar at all, but it reminds me of that because it's very unique. You take the entire front of his lower leg, rotate it down, so this side of what was his shin, I think it's called, is flush with what ends up being the bottom of the car, as you can see by the wheel. We're going to do that on both sides, of course. Very cool. And then these fold up, and these fold down. And that is the back of the car. It pegs together, except his hips are a little loose, so sometimes it's hard to get it to do it. And you can see he's now hopping along in the back of a car. I don't know what I'm doing. That was just dumb. Please pretend I didn't do that. Now we're going to take his whole torso and rotate it around. Take his false chest, flip it down. Now we're going to take his head and leave it exactly like that. I always want to fold his head in at this point. This is the wrong time to do it, so leave it there. Instead, what we're going to do, and this is the part, this is my other complaint. This is the part I hate. This bit here, which is very loose anyway, comes to about here. Obviously, those are the doors, and they're supposed to be there. So how do you get them there, you ask? Well, you have to unpeg the wheels from here. Then you have to bring this back, bring these up, the windows, flay this out, bring it down, flay this part back out, and let it, you know, sit down in there. And that's a little weird. It's a little more complicated than I think it should be, but that isn't even where I have the major issue. I have the major issue with these things here. What is that? Is that like some kind of robotic arm or something? No, that's just a bunch of transformation joints connected to a bunch of other transformation joints, and it's annoying. Anyway, next, rotate his head up into what was his torso. Then we can now bring these up. These make, what's the front of a car called? The fender, I think? Whatever that is. Bring those up, make that. See how these wheels are pointing inward? Yeah, they can't be pointing inward, so they have to rotate around, which is like that. Up here on the arm, you can see where these are connected. You have to rotate them all the way around. Come down here. See how this is on a hinge? I'm trying to show this, and this is hard to show off, guys. It really is. See how there's this hinge here? You have to bend this in on the hinge. That was my stomach growling, if you heard that. Make sure these window bits don't get pushed in, which they usually do, and can sometimes pop off, which does not make this transformation more pleasant. It really doesn't. Yeah, that's right. See what I mean, though? This is just silly. It's so ridiculous. And my stomach growling again. Peg this together. Bring it down. So that it sits in there. Now bring his hood down. Peg it in there. You can see these little tabs here are supposed to go under this bit here, like so. Now the wheels aren't going to be lined up, so you have to push them in so that they're lined up. It's just a mess. It is a mess, but when you have that mess sorted out, you get that. And this thing is so flipping awesome. Yeah, you can see stuff through the window. Yeah, it's a little fiddly. But just look at that. There are, of course, molded details that should have been painted. It's a Hasbro toy. There will be a sticker set for this that will fix not only lack of paint in this mode, but my entire issue with his color scheme in robot mode will be fixed, I'm sure. But just look at this. This is beautiful. And for how fiddly the front end was, that's hair. Sorry, this is not the best quality review, guys. Still, I hope you enjoy it. For how fiddly that front end was, it rolls spectacularly well once you get everything put together. And to be honest, I don't recommend you guys take this to heart or anything. Let me adjust my light real quick. But I actually had an easier time transforming this guy from behind the camera. I don't know why. If, like, being too close to it just made me overthink it. I guess my advice with this guy is don't overthink it. But this, I think, lends credibility to my theory that this was made for collectors. And, I mean, it's not, like, third-party level quality collector's toy. But it's pretty good, from Hasbro, especially. It's complicated and ends up getting us a character that looks like the character from the show. Even though if you look at his character model, that's gotta be hard to do. But just the difficulty of the transformation and the complexity of the transformation, I think, really lends to my theory that this was built for adult collectors to add to their collections. Maybe not even adult collectors, maybe like younger kids and teenagers who collect stuff too. This is made for all of us collectors out there. A little kid within the like young Transformers demographic, is not going to like this toy, because a bunch of those transformation points in this front end, they were ball joints. Those are going to keep popping off, and kids are going to hate that. In this mode, you can put on his derp armor. It goes like that, and that actually looks a lot cooler than I think it does in robot mode. I like this. There was absolutely no way for them to make this work, though. Have it attached and keep it in robot mode. It would have just made everything an even bigger mess. His gun can peg in on either side of the spoiler in these very tight pegs that I don't like pegging it into, because these are pretty fragile. You can also peg in here. I also don't like pegging it in here because it's also a very tight peg, and I'm worried this whole piece is going to come apart. So I mostly just leave the gun off to the side, and I of course leave the very flimsy derp armor off to the side. And I mean, who the hell uses this? But yeah, guys, if you're a collector, this is a fantastic figure. Because Smokescreen, I know, is a favorite of a lot of the people who watch Prime. And this is by far the definitive Smokescreen. This is the Smokescreen that you're going to want on your shelf to display with your other characters. Unless you collect, like, Cyberverse guys, in which case, get the Cyberverse Smokescreen. I'm pretty sure there is one. But if you collect in Deluxe and Upscale, this is the one to get. He's really cool. If you enjoy challenging transformations, you'll enjoy it. Shh. My dogs are making noises, sorry. If you like challenging transformations, you will enjoy this one. It is a lot like a puzzle in the front end. The back end is a little weak in terms of transformation, but still interesting. He comes with a solid recommendation, if that's the case. If you are a parent wanting to buy this for a kid, or you're a kid who, face it, probably knows how to use YouTube better than your parents, I'm sorry guys, but stay away from this one. You're not going to like it very much. Parents, you're not going to like when your kid gets totally freaked out and angry that they can't get it transformed, and kids, you're not going to like getting it transformed. And that's really all I have to say about this guy, guys. Great display piece, not so great a toy.